Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making this cute little koala bear. It is what I consider a no-sew body pattern, which means we'll start by making the little arms, and then we'll make the legs, then we'll move on to the top of the head, work our way down, add the arms, do some of the body, add the eyes, add the legs, stuff, and clothes. And then we will have to sew on the nose, the ears, the little patch on the front, and then whatever embroidery we do, and if you decide you want to brush the ears out to make them fluffy. For this video, I will be using a number 4 medium weight yarn, a 4.25 millimeter hook, and 14 millimeter safety eyes. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you, and I am also providing a drop down at the top of the screen with the pattern instructions for the first 30 seconds of every row for you to follow along with. And if you enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you will also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. Okay, I think that's everything, so grab your yarn and let's get started. All right, we are going to start by making the arms, and you can begin any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with the loop on the end, like I was making a chain. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That's just attaching our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 6 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull that tail if you need to close that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 6 increases. So that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Increase again, 3 and 4. Increase, 5 and 6, increase, 7 and 8, increase, 9 and 10, and our last increase, 11 and 12. Row 3, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 4, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Row 5, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 6, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 7, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease for 5, and repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease for 10. Row 8, 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 9, 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 10, 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 11, 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 12, 10 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Row 13, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 8. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4. And then repeat that again. 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8. Row 14, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 15, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 16, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 17, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we can take our hook out because we're going to add some stuffing now. So I'm also taking my stitch marker out, and get your stuffing ready. Okay, so you want to have a fair-sized handful of yarn, and I'm going to split that in half, half for the hand and half for the arm. So I'm going to split that in half again, and then I'm going to stick that down into the bottom of the hand. And if you have a hard time stuffing when you have a smaller hole up at top, taking your scissors and just pushing that down with the point really helps get that in there. I'm going to take my second little half, do the same thing. So we want that all the way down into the hand, maybe a bit of a ball, not too firm, but definitely not on the squishy side. Then we're going to take a little bit of our other chunk of stuffing, and we're going to stuff up this arm, but we want to try and evenly and lightly stuff it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and push this down to the bottom, but I don't want all of it going down. So I am kind of trying to hold it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you do end up getting a little bit of a ball in there, what you can do is just kind of rub it like this and kind of smooth that out. So I need a little bit more in there yet. I'm just going to put a tad bit more in. Again, using my scissors and just trying to slide it down. And that's enough, so I'm not even going to put it all in there. We want the tops of our arms to be very lightly stuffed so that they don't stick out and they'll kind of wrap around his body. So I've got it firmer here and then quite thin on the inside of the arm. All right, and then we will get our hook back in. And we are going to start by going into our next stitch and our last stitch. So it's going to look like this. And we're going to do 3 single crochets across. So 1, through the front and the back. That's 2, through the front and the back. That's 3. And then we're going to tie that off and leave yourself a little bit of a tail. Even though we're not sewing these on, I do something with the ends to make the arms a little bit more secure. So if you have just finished your first arm, I will be putting a screenshot in the next frame with a timestamp, so you can go back and do your second arm. And if you've finished your second arm, just keep on watching and we'll continue on to the next part. Okay, now we are going to do the leg, and again, you can start any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with a loop on the end as if I was making a chain. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, 6 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull on that tail to close that hole if you need to. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one, and for row 2 we're going to do 6 increases, so that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2, increase 3 and 4, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, and our last increase 11 and 12. Row 3, we're going to do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do 6 increases. 1 increase, 2, oops, 2, oh, my yarn's doing something funny here. 2 increases, 3 increases, 4 increases, 5 increases, and 6 increases. And then we should have 3 single crochets to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3. Row 4, we're going to do 6 single crochets to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to go and do 6 increases across. So 1 increase, 2 increases, 3 increases, 4 increases, 5 increases, 6 increases. Then we should have 6 single crochets to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a total of 24. Row 5, we're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 6, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 7, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. For the next row, we are going to be using the front loops. So before we start that, and if you have never used front loops or back loops, I'm just going to quickly show you the difference. So generally you go down under both these V's when you're making your crochet stitch. So if you're going to be going in the front loops, you're going to come down and up, and you're going to come through the middle of that V. And then if you're using the back loops, you're going to come down through the V and out the back. All right, so for row 8, we are going to start with 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now we're going to do 6 invisible decreases. So you're going to go in that front loop of your next stitch, front loop of the next stitch. So you have 2 front loops on your hook. You're going to grab your yarn, pull through those 2 front loops, then grab your yarn again and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. So there's 1 invisible decrease. So we'll do that again. Front loop, grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 front loops, grab your yarn and go through the last 2 loops on your hook. So that's 2 invisible decrease. That's 3 invisible decrease. Come on. That's 4 invisible decrease. That's 5 invisible decrease. That's 6. And then you should have 5 single crochets to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for a total of 18. Okay, for row 9, we are going to start with 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to do 6 invisible decreases. So remember the front loops of the next 2 stitches through the 2, through the 2. So that's 1 invisible decrease. That's 2 invisible decrease. That's 3 invisible decrease. That's 4 invisible decrease. That's 5 invisible decrease. That's 6. And then we should have 2 single crochets left. 1, 2, for a total of 12. For rows 10 to 17, we are just going to do 12 single crochets, and I'm going to do those consecutively. So that is 8 rows of 12. 8 times 12 is 96, so I'm going to do 96 single crochets, and then I'm just going to flip my marker every time I hit a set of 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, flipping my marker, but keep on counting. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, flipping my marker, keep on counting. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, oops, 34, 35, 36, flipping my marker, keep on counting, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, flipping my marker, keep on counting, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, flipping my marker, keep on counting, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, flipping my marker, keep on counting, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, flipping my marker, keep on counting, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. And then I'm just going to take my hook out and my stitch marker because now we're going to add stuffing. So get that ready. Alright, so again, grab yourself a fair-sized handful of stuffing. I'm also going to split that in half to start and then split it again. What we're going to do, we're going to find the front toes of our foot, so that'll be the piece that sticks out where we did all of our decreases. And we're going to stuff our first little batch into the toes of our foot. So what I do is I use my hand to keep the bottom flat. Then I'm just going to kind of swoop the stuffing up into the toes. And then I'm going to grab another piece of stuffing and I'm going to shove that down. Ideally, it's going to go into the bottom of the foot, but if you feel like it's not stuffed enough, you're going to also push that forward a little bit, but make sure you're not stretching your stitches. Then I'm just going to grab a little bit more, and this is going to go down into the heel of the foot. So it should look like this. I have my foot stuffed and nothing in my leg. Now I'm going to put the rest into the leg, and we want to have it just stuffed. We don't want it to be so firm that we're stretching the stitches, but we also don't want, we want to be able to push it down. Just make sure I'm the right way here. We want to be able to push it down so it's in like a triangle shape from the foot to our closing. So generally what I do is I make sure that the last two rows aren't stuffed. So I'm stuffed to here. And now we will get our hook back in. And again, just like we did the arms, we're going to go into the next stitch. And then we're going to go over into the last stitch. And we are going to do 6 single crochets across, but we don't have the right amount of stitches, so we're going to start with 2 single crochets. 1. Make sure through both sides. 2. And then we're going to do an increase in the middle. 3 and 4. And then 2 stitches on the end. 1. So that'd be 5. And another for 6. And then we're going to tie that off, and again leave a bit of a tail. I don't do much with these ends, but we are going to tie them on the inside, so you'll need a little bit of length for that. Alright, so if you've just finished your first leg, I will be putting a screenshot over in the next frame with a timestamp, so you can go back and do your second leg. And if you're finished your second leg, just keep on watching and we'll move on to the next part. All right, now we are going to start on the head. And again, you can begin any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with a loop on the end, like I'm making a chain. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, 6 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull that tail to close that hole if you need to. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 6 increases. So that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2. Increase 3 and 4. Increase 5 and 6. Increase 7 and 8. Increase 9 and 10. And our last increase 11 and 12. Row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 increase for 2 and 3, and then repeat that around. 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, and our last increase, 17 and 18. Row 4, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, and repeat that around. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 5, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, increase, 4 and 5, and repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and our last increase, 29 and 30. Row 6, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6. Repeat that again. 7, 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, increase, 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and our last increase, 35 and 36. Row 7, we are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and an increase, 6 and 7, and then repeat that around. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, increase, 13 and 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, increase, 20 and 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, increase, 27 and 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, increase, 34 and 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and our last increase, 41 and 42. Row 8, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 9, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 10, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 11, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, excuse me, 40, 41, 42. Row 12, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 13, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 14, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 15, we are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease, 4, 6, and repeat that around. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease, 4, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and a decrease for 36. Row 16, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and a decrease for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30. Row 17, we are going to do 3 single crochets, a 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. Row 18, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 18. 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, 4, 5, and a decrease for 6, 7, 8, and a decrease for 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18. All right, now we are going to do the arm row. So grab those and get those ready. And I'm going to switch angles so we can hopefully see a little better. And I will meet you right back. All right, so we are going to start row 19 with 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. Now, remembering that this is the back, so this is the front, we want to grab one of our arms and we want our strings facing the front. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the next stitch of the head. So 1, through the arm, through the next stitch of the head, that's 2, through the arm, through the next stitch of the head, that's 3. And then we are going to do 6 single crochets across, and make sure you're in the next stitch because it's really easy to go in the same one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now grab your other arm, and again remembering that you want your strings facing the front, so both your strings should be together on the same sides. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the next stitch of the head. So that's 1 through the arm, through the next stitch of the head. That's 2 through the arm and the next stitch of the head. That's 3. And then we should have 3 single crochets left to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3 for a total of 18. All right, row 20, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4. And repeat that around. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, And when you get to these strings, make sure you leave them on the outside because we're going to need them for later. 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 21, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 22, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, increase, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and our last increase, 29 and 30. Row 23, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 24, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and an increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and an increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and an increase, 23 and 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and an increase, 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and an increase, 35 and 36. All right. We're probably far enough along. We can center our guy to add our eyes now. So what you're going to do is, using your arms, you're going to just flatten your little guy out so his head is nice and even. And then we're going to find the row that we need. So using our first center loop as row 1, we are going to count down between rows 9 and 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So between rows 9 and 10, we're just going to stick our pin in. And right now we're just finding our row, not the center. And then now we need to find the center. So using our arms, we're just going to count over from where we attach them right to the middle. So if that's my middle, and then this is the center of my loop, I'm just going to kind of line them up visually. And I think I need to go over 1 stitch, and that should be pretty good. So I am actually in a stitch. I'm not in a hole. So I have a hole on each side of my pin there. And now grab your eyes. And what we're going to do is we're going to count over 4 stitches from our pin. So there's our pin, there's our first hole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go in that 4th hole. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So there's our pin, there's our hole right beside. 1, 2, 3, 4, and in that 4th hole. And then just have another look to double check that you're happy with where you place them. Again, I use the arms and kind of come up. They seem okay to me. So if you're happy with them, you're going to put your thumb on the eye, and you're going to tip him over and push that eye up through the neck so you can see that post nice and easy. And then just put the back on. And then do the same thing for the other one. Thumb on the eye, flip that up and through the neck hole on the inside, and then put your back on. Now, if you have trouble stuffing when you get too far along, you can start stuffing as you go now. I need to wait till closer to the end so I have room to squish this guy down. So for row 25, we are going to do a 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 26, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 27, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 28, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 29, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 30, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 31, we are going to do 4 single crochets, a 1 decrease. Repeat that around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease, 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and a decrease, 4, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease, for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and a decrease for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease, for 30. Row 32, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. All right, let's add some stuffing now. I was going to wait till the legs were on, but it's going to be way easier for you guys to do it before the legs are on. All right, so grab your stuffing. And when I stuff mine, I like to grab my fingers and wrap them around the neck, and that will help to save those stitches around the neck from stretching. And we're just going to keep adding, pushing up to the top and out to the sides. So we want the head to be fairly firm. So now that I got the top nice and firm, I'm just slowly going around the inside of the neck, and just where I feel like a space, I'm just going to let the stuffing kind of fill in. All right, let's have a look. So Just kind of make sure it's kind of going in a roundish shape and you don't have like a big lump on one side. I'm really close. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stick my fingers inside and I'm just going to like dig in kind of a little well. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of pushing the sides out a bit, and then I can just take a small amount and just stuff it into that hole without stretching my stitches anymore. And we're going to do the same thing like that on the bottom when we get to it. So you can add some stuffing into the body right now if you want. I'm going to wait till after I add the legs, probably one of the last couple of rows. Whichever is easiest for you. So let's stick our hook back in. And you're going to want to grab your legs and get those handy. And before we start, remember if you're left-handed, you may be doing this row backwards. So for row 33, we are going to begin with 8 single crochets across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you should end up right even with halfway across your first arm that you come to. Then you're going to grab one of your feet and you want to make sure that the toes are facing the body and the head, because remember he's upside down, so you want those toes facing up when he's turned around. And we are going to do 6 single crochets through the leg and through the body. So into the leg, just like we did the arms, and then into the next stitch of the body. So that's 1, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 2, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 3, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 4, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body, that's 5, and then into the leg, and the next stitch of the body. That tail, that's 6. And then we're going to take our leg tail, we're going to put that to the inside. Grab your other leg. Again, remember you want the toes facing the body and the head. And we're going to do 6 single crochets into the leg and into the body. And just remember to double check that you're going in the right stitch, because right here it's really easy to go into the same stitch you were just in. So I was just in this stitch, so I want to go in this stitch. It's the next one over. So that's 1, into the leg, into the next stitch, oh, there's a mess here, of the body. That's 2, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 3, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 4, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 5, into the leg, into the next stitch of the body. That's 6. And then again, you want that string to the inside. And now we should have 4 single crochets left to finish off the row. So make sure you're going in the right one, so that we were just in that stitch. So here's our next stitch. may have to pull it 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's tie these leg strings now. So we're just going to take each leg string and tie it loosely along the inside of the body. So you don't want to make this too tight because then your legs are going to squish together like this. So nice and loose for the first one. And then tighten as you go. You probably need 2 or 3 knots. And then you can just give those a cut so they're not in your way. All right, let's get our hook back in. And remember, we only have 3 rows left, so if you need to add stuffing now, continue adding as you go. So for row 34, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that around for a total of 18. So 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, 4, 5, and a decrease for 6, 7, 8, and a decrease for 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18. I think I might just pop a little bit of stuffing in there right now. So I'm just butting my body stuffing up to the neck. I'm not putting any into the neck. And when you're stuffing the body, you want this bum to be on the flat side, and sometimes what I like to do is kind of push it out towards the back of the butt here, so it's more of an oval shape. And then when he sits down, he's got a bit of a base to sit on. All right, so I'm just gonna make my little well now, so that when I get down to the last little bit, see, now I can just stick my stuffing down in that hole and not have to worry about trying to fit it in a small area. All right, so for row 35, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 12. So 1 decrease for 2, 3, decrease for 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, decrease for 8, 9, decrease for 10, 11, and our last decrease for 12. All right, I'm going to put the last little bit of my stuffing in. For row 36, we are going to do 6 decreases all the way around. So 1 decrease, 2 decreases, 3 decreases, 4 decreases, 5 decreases, and 6 decreases. And then we're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And then we'll tie that off. Leave yourself a bit of a tail for sewing that on. And grab your darning needle. Actually, let's take that stitch marker out now. We're done with that. We'll thread on our end. And what we're going to do is we're just going to weave in and out of the top loops of our last row. And if you're doing this in plush yarn and you find it breaks really easy, try doing half, giving it a pull, and then doing the other half of the stitches. Oop. So I'm all the way around now, so I'm just going to give it a pull. Then I'm going to tie a knot in the next stitch. And then we're just going to go down in the center and then out the back somewhere. And we're going to give that a pull. We want to do 2 things here. One is we're going to pull that knot we just made to the inside. And we're also going to kind of flatten out the bum if you can. And give that a cut. Now we're gonna thread on the arm strings, and it doesn't matter which one because we're doing them both exactly the same. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna find your knot from where you attach the arm there, and right in that stitch, the last stitch that you would have added the arm to, you're just gonna come out the back of the neck in the center somewhere. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we'll thread that on. And again, right where that knot is, the last stitch where you attach the arm down into that hole. Then you're going to come out the back in the same hole that your other arm string came out of. Now keep track of these 2 strings. You're going to tie them 1 time loosely and then wrap those strings around the neck while you turn your little guy over. And now you are going to pull these arm strings so that the knots go on to the inside, and then the arms are going to come forward. So just be careful not to break your yarn. So see how they're coming in and forward, and then just pull them till you're happy with where they are, and that is pretty good for me, I think. So now you'll tie them a little tighter to secure that. Remember, they do relax a little bit. Then we'll just rethread those on and put them out the inside to the back somewhere. And we'll cut those off. All right. Okay, we're going to start the nose now, and I'm going to use white because it's easier to see, but you'll want to use black or a dark color. And we're going to be chaining, so you can make your starting chain any way you like, but I'm going to make my knot with a loop on the end. So I'm going to fold my yarn over, grab that top of that loop, wrap it around my finger, then I'm going to bring that loop down, around, and through. And then I'm going to pinch that loop, and I'm just going to slide that knot up. And we want our loop to be just a little bit bigger than our hook. So we're going to insert our hook. And now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, starting in our second chain from the hook, we're going to do 1 increase on the bottom end. So 1 and 2 in the same stitch. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets across. So 1, 2. And now we're going to do an increase at the top of the nose, but we're going to put 1 on this side and 1 on the other side. So the first half of our increase on this side, that's 1. Then we're going to pivot our yarn, so we're working on the back side, and do the second single crochet of our increase in that same stitch. So that's 2. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets across. 1, 2, and now we're going to do 1 increase in this end stitch on the bottom of the nose. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. So it should look like this. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we're going to do 2 increases on the bottom end of the nose. So 1 increase and 2 increases. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets across. 1, 2. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets around the top of the nose. So 1, 2, and we're turning around as we go. And now we're going to do 2 single crochets across. 1, 2. And then we're going to do 2 increases on the bottom end of the nose. So 1 increase, 2 increases, for a total of 14. Row 3, we're just going to do 14 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we're just going to slip stitch in the next stitch and tie that off, leaving ourselves enough of a tail to sew that on. And what I do is I wrap it around twice so I know I have more than enough, and then I just cut a little bit extra off the end. Take our stitch marker out. And I tried to do this a little on the looser side, because since we're using black or a dark color with white stuffing, you see how you see these holes here in the front? Now I made the mistake of not leaving myself a long tail, but I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do on my black one. So I'm just going to go back and forth with my starting tail, and I will put a note at the beginning to leave a little bit of a tail when you get started. I'm just going to weave back and forth in those couple of holes. So I'm just grabbing a stitch on each side of that hole. And then I got one more little hole, so I'm just going to grab a stitch on the bottom here, go across, and then that'll close those holes up. So you can tie that. I'm just going to leave mine since I have such a little tail there to deal with. And then that'll help with those stitches. You can go back up if you need to. Alright, so let's add a little bit of stuffing to our nose now. And we want just enough that it's going to kind of poof it out, but we're not going to see any of it when we sew it on. So we want it to be nice and flat and tucked in there good. And then if you see where I sewed mine, those opening stitches there, you can't see that stuffing now. And you want to make sure you have the widest part on the bottom, and that should be where you have your end string. And we're just going to line that up in between the eyes, and I'm going on the row that I put my eyes in. And we're just going to start by putting 2 pins up in top into that row. So in those top 2 nose stitches, and we're just going to kind of line it up, and wherever it falls naturally down to the bottom, we're going to put a couple of pins in the bottom now. So 1 on each side, and then I might go a little bit up here just to pull this bottom out, because we want the bottom to be wider than the top. Try and make sure you're going through both of the V's in your stitch. Alright, so now I'm just going to let it kind of taper down and just pin it where it's sitting. Try not to pull it out too much if I can. And just as you're going along, just double check that it's staying straight. And that your stuffing is staying underneath. I think I might put one more on each side here. The more pins you use, the less chance there is of it moving around on you when you're sewing it on. Alright, so just double check that you're happy, it's centered. Your biggest problem or for me anyways, is right here. So I do think I could move this over a touch on this side. It's just a little bit more on this side. Alright, if you're happy with where it's sitting, grab your darning needle. We're going to put that end on. Actually, I might have to tie his arms up for this one too. So I'm just going to put an elastic around his arms so they're not flopping and hitting the camera. Okay, so we are going to start by going down kind of underneath the nose, catching a piece of the head, and then coming up over in the next stitch. And give that a bit of a pull so you can try and hide that knot in if you can. Then we're going to go up the next stitch. I'm sorry, black's a little hard to see, but I didn't want to sew a white nose on. So we're going to go down the next stitch, go around a piece of the row, and we're always staying underneath the nose when we're going in and out, and then that way you won't see your stitches. And go up the next stitch. Down the next stitch. Catch a piece of the head. Oh, see there's a little stuffing there. I'm just going to tuck that in. Go up. Again, make sure you're staying under the nose. As long as you're catching a piece of the head, you're okay. Back up the next stitch. Now we're getting to the top two stitches, so we want to make sure we're going in the top stitch and into this row here where we put the eyes in. So these next two stitches will be in this, straight across in this row. And that will just help keep it straight there. So back up the next stitch. Back down into the head. Now I'm just playing with this a little bit so it doesn't go crooked. So I am going down a little bit. And then up that next stitch. And just keep going around like that. This is where I let you guys know if you ever want to share one of your little creations with me that you made. You can go onto my Facebook craft page. You don't have to join or anything. You just have to find a post that's already there, and then you can leave a comment or leave a photo. What else? And most of my latest videos within the past year, I also put the yarn colors and eye size and yarn size in the description. So you just got to click down below the video. Usually you have to hit more twice. More once will take you there, and then you have to hit it again for it to expand. I'm only down to my last couple stitches now, so if you need to add some stuffing, you'll want to add it now, and you'll just tuck it up inside these last couple of stitches before you close. I think mine's okay, so I'm going to leave it. So, yeah, I'm actually at my last stitch here. So this is my stitch where I made my knot, but I haven't gone into that stitch yet. So I'm going to go in that stitch. Then I'm going to come over to this side because when you go on the round, sometimes it's staggered. So I'm going to go over to this side, come down around and back to that same stitch that, like I'm going around the knot basically into another stitch. And then we're just going to cinch those two pieces together. And then it'll make it a bit more of a smoother transition from one side to the other. And then I'm just going to go back so I can tie my knot. I'm not going into the head, I'm just coming back through that other stitch. So I'm just using those two bottom stitches right now. And now I need to find one of my sewing stitches. So I'm just going to grab this one. So this is a stitch I use to sew it on. It's not a part of the nose or a part of the head. Then I'm just going to tie my knot. Nice and tight. And then hide that down under the nose into the back somewhere. And we'll cut that off. And throughout this whole process doing the face, you'll probably find you gotta squish your face back into place a little bit. I was gonna do the face next, but maybe while he's all tied up, let's do the little patch and sew that on. Okay, so for the little patch on his chest, we are going to be going in the round again, so you can start any way you prefer. I'll be doing my knot with the loop on the end. Insert my hook, grab my yarn and pull through and chain one. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That's just attaching our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, we're going to do 4 single crochets into our loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now don't join this. We're going to chain 1. And then we're going to turn it around, so we're going back over the stitches we just did. So for row 2, we're going to do 4 increases. So increase, that's once, increase, that's twice, and increase again, down in that end. That's 3 times. And then one more increase. Whoops. Sometimes that last one's tricky. Make sure you're going through both sides of that V. And that's 4. And for row 3, we are going to chain 1. Turn our work around to the other side. And starting in this first stitch, we're going to do 1 single crochet. And then we're going to increase all the way around except for the last stitch. So increase, that's 1. Increase again, that's 2. Increase, that's 3. Increase, that's 4. Increase, that's 5. Increase, that's 6. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet in this end stitch. And now we're going to do 5 single crochets across. So in that same stitch we were just in, single crochet, single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in that center loop stitch, single crochet in that next stitch, and then single crochet on the end. And then we'll just slip stitch in the next stitch and tie that off. Leave yourself enough of a tail to sew this on. Now I brushed my little patch and I did it after it was sewn on. It was not fun and it was really hard not to brush any of the gray. So you may want to brush it now, but just be careful not to wreck your stitches going around because you'll need those to sew it on. Alright, so let's get our darning needle now. And I'm just gonna thread that on. And then now, just for pinning this on, all I'm doing is butting it up into the neck evenly between the arms. So it's pretty much going to be from arm to arm and then under the neck. And I'm just going to pin it. I'm not pinning in the stitches now. I'm pinning under so that I don't hopefully have to remove my pins as I'm going around, and it'll just stay in place. So I got 3 across the top, and then I'll put a couple on the bottom. We want that to stay in there. You can pull this and move this around a bit if you don't like it in like a half circle. And I might just put one in the middle, a couple in the middle here, just because it might move around a bit the way I got it pinned. All right, so we're going to do it just like we did the nose. So we're just going to go down underneath the patch into the neck, come up and around. Oops, yeah, see, look how I moved all my pins already. And then come back up in the first stitch. Go down the next stitch, around a row of the body. Up the next stitch. Careful when you're doing this not to catch any other pieces of the body, like up here. I've done that a few times and it's a real pain to fix it. Down and around a piece of the body. Up the next stitch, and remember I'm staying underneath this the whole time with my stitches, so you're not seeing my stitches anywhere. And pull this down a tad and go around. And of course, always keep checking that it's not moving on you. Down and around. Back up a stitch, down and around. I caught a tad bit of stuffing there. Try not to do that. I think it's okay because I can't see it. I might just move these out of my way. Actually, yeah. It's pretty secure now, so I'm going to take my pins out, so I'm not accidentally poking myself when I'm squeezing this guy's body, because you will have to kind of manipulate him a bit so you can get to these stitches. So this is my last side stitch, and now I'm going to go across the top. Making sure I have both of those V's. And be very careful not to stretch it here, like your next stitches when you're lifting your guy out. You can try and go up through the stitch without coming out like I am. But I find this gives me more control over where, over it not sliding around. So like right here, you could have tried coming up the next stitch, but I like to do it in 2 parts. As much as we all love sewing, I just find it makes for a cleaner stitches and you're not moving it around. So I'm in my last stitch here. I'm just going to grab a piece of that, and then just like I did the nose, I want to try and find one of my stitches, and I'll show you that in a second. So there I have a stitch. I'm not in the patch or in the body. It's one of my sewing stitches. That just helps it stay underneath, and you can kind of hide. If you make a mess of your knot, you can kind of hide it underneath that way. And it's a nice tight stitch. So I just tied my knot, and now I'm going to hide that out the back. Try to go into a hole nearby. And I think we can free this guy now. All right, now we're gonna shape the eyes so they kind of come in and down a bit. So I'm just using a scrap that I cut off when we did our arms. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna come down in the center between the eyes somewhere. We're gonna come up to the inside center of the eye. Leave enough of a end to tie on one side. We're going to wrap that around the eye. You may have to lift it. And then we're going to come to the bottom inside of the eye, 1 row down from where we went in. We're going to go over and across to the other side to match that. And we're going to go around this eye. Just a second there. And we're going to go up 1 row to the center inside of the eye to match this side where we went in. And we're going to come out where we started. And then we are just going to tie those together. And as we pull them tighter, we're going to push down on our eyes and bring them closer together. Pull it tight. Do that again. This just helps you not break your string or yarn. I don't know why I always call it string lately. And then when you think you have them close enough, you are just going to tie them a little tighter. And then we'll put them out the back. Give that a cut. And you may have to fix the little hole that you made from pulling those strings around in there. And now we're going to do the little eye accent. So I'm just grabbing a little scrap of white. Thread that on your needle. And you're going to go down on the outside of the eye this time. And if you have a big hole right there, just grab a little piece of the stitch beside, and that will help it from going all the way sliding under the eye. This side I have a nice stitch right there, so I'm just going to go right through and leave about half of your yarn on one side. And then you're just going to go, you can either go up or you can go down. I'm going to go down on this one, so I'm going down to the inside corner, down here, and then I'm going to come up out the center. And we're just going to pull that gently. I might have to fix my eyes a bit, all that pushing around. Thread on your other end. And you're just going to match that stitch right there. So you're in the bottom corner of the eye and come out where your other end is. And again, you want to pull that gently. I'm just going to move my posts a bit because I smushed my head. So you're just going to tie that one time, and you're going to pull those strings so they're nice and tight under the eye, but they're not going to slide under the eye. And we'll give that a better tie. Thread the ends back on our needle and put them out the back. And this time you want to do it gently so you're not pulling those accents under your safety eye there. So I just like to watch it, and as soon as that knot is through, I stop pulling, and then I'm going to gently take it out the back. Give it a cut. I'm not pulling on it. And if you still have a piece of yarn there, you're just going to come beside and then swoop down, and that will get rid of it. And you may have to come back here and fix that little hole. And then for the eyebrows, you're just going to grab some black yarn or embroidery thread. And what I do is I just separate mine. So there's usually 4 strands. I've already taken a piece out of this, so I only have 3. And I'm just going to pull it apart. And then that is going to be my makeshift embroidery thread. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come up 2 rows from the inside of the eye. So 1, 2, and same thing on this side. 1, 2, and then just match those 2 so they're even. Pull about half your thread through. And you can, of course, put them anywhere you want. But what I do lately is I find my first hole on the outside top of the eye, and I go over 2 holes. So I count that as 1, 2. Then I'm just going to come up the center here and out for tying. And again, pull this gently because you don't want to stretch this stitch too much. Then thread on your other end, and same thing you did on this side you do on this side. So there's my hole on the outside of my eye, so that's 1, 2, and then up where you ended your other piece of yarn. And again, pull that gently. Now when we go in the round, sometimes our stitches are a little off or lower, so like this one looks a little bit longer than this one, so I'm just going to pull that one a little bit more to shorten it up, and then I'm going to tie it. So a nice loose tie, and then a little bit tighter to secure it, and then we'll put these ends out. So right back in that same hole and out the back somewhere, and again gently, just like you did the eye accents. So just watch that come through and then pull it out the back. And again, when you cut this, don't pull it hard, and we'll fix that little string. So just a couple stitches over and swoop down and around. And then you may again have to fix the stitch in the front where you tied. All right, now we're going to do the ears, and we're going to need an inside and an outside, and I'm going to be referring to them as the left and the right according to how he's facing me. So this will be the left ear and this will be the right ear. Okay, so for the inside left ear, we are going to start off in white, and again, you can begin any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, this does not count as a stitch. This just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, we're going to do 4 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now starting in this first stitch right here, we're going to do 4 increases. So increase, that's once, increase, that's twice, increase, that's 3 times, and an increase, making sure you're getting both sides of the stitch, that's 4 times. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn. Row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet and 1 increase all the way around to this end for a total of 12. So 1 increase, 2 and 3, and repeat that around. 4 increase, 5 and 6, 7 increase, 8 and 9, 10 and an increase, 11 and 12, and then you're going to chain 1 and turn. In row 4, you're going to do 2 single crochets and an increase, and repeat that to the other end for a total of 16. So 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, and then repeat. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, and an increase, 15 and 16. Whoop. And then you're just going to tie that off. You don't need much of a tail because this is going to be hiding on the inside of your ear. Now we're going to do the outside of the left ear. So again, you're going to need to make your knot or magic ring or chain 2, however you prefer to start. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end. Insert my hook. Oh, I made that a tad small. Grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And for row 1, we're going to do 4 single crochets into that loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1 and turn. Row 2, we're going to do 4 increases. So increase, that's 1, increase, that's 2, increase, that's 3, and another increase, that's 4. And then again, chain 1 and turn. Row 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, and repeat that to the end. So 1, increase, 2 and 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, and our last increase, 11 and 12. And then chain 1 and turn. Row 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, and repeat that to the end. So 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, and our last increase, 15 and 16. Okay, now we're going to be doing the left ear. So we want our strings to be ending at the top for when we sew them on. So we're going to make it so we're seeing this side. So this is how he's going to be sewing on right there. And then we're going to bring our inside piece and decide which side you want facing. And I usually try and pick the side where I can see my V's. So see how you can see the V's on the front there? But if you flip it around, you just see these bumps. So I want to see the V's, and then I got to remember to do the same thing when I get to the other ear. So what we're going to do is go in the very first stitch of the round part on both sides. We're going to do 1 single crochet. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do a single crochet in that same stitch, and that's just going to give us our little bumps. And then we're just going to repeat that all the way around. So single crochet in the next stitch, whoops, chain 2, and single crochet in the same stitch. Single crochet in the next stitch, and make sure you're going through both layers, front and back. Chain 2, single crochet in that same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch. I'm getting close to the end here. So if you happen to go in the wrong stitches, you're just going to fudge the end here, but I think I'm okay. Looks like I have 3 stitches left. So single crochet, chain 3, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch, and then I'm at my last one. Just make sure I get under both of those sides, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, single crochet in the same stitch. And then I just want to make sure all my tails are tucked to the inside. And I'm going to do single crochet across, but I'm going to go in the same stitch on the ends, 2 in the middle or in between, and then 1 in the center loop. So single crochet in that same stitch we just went in, then you're going to have 2 stitches before you get to the middle. Oh, it's really tight. So 1, 2 on the one side, and then you should be going in the center loops on both sides right now. Sorry, my hands are just in the way on this. And then we have our 2 stitches across, 1, 2, and then a single crochet in that end stitch, and then slip stitch into your first or next or last stitch there of the ear, and leave yourself a bit of a tail for sewing on. So I'll just set that there for now. All right, now we're going to be doing the inside of the right ear. So again, you can begin any way you prefer. I'll be doing my knot with the loop on the end. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain one. And remember, that doesn't count as a stitch. That's just attaching our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, we're going to do 4 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, whoopsie, can't get it, 4, chain 1, and turn. Row 2, we're going to do 4 increases. So increase, that's 1, increase, that's 2, increase, that's 3, and then on the end, our last increase. Make sure you get through both. Oh, not getting through both here. There we go. And our last increase here. That's 4. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn. Row 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that for a total of 12. So 1, increase, 2 and 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, and an increase for 11 and 12, and then you're going to chain 1 and turn. Row 4, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, and repeat that to the other end. So 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, and our last increase, 15 and 16. And then again, tie that off. Don't need much of a tail because they're just going on the inside. And now we're going to do the outside right ear. So again, make your knot with the loop on the end, or however you prefer to start. Insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up and chain 1, remembering that does not count as a stitch. And for row 1, we're going to do 4 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn. Row 2, we're going to do 4 increases. So increase, that's 1, increase, that's 2, increase, that's 3, and our last increase, that's 4. And chain 1 and turn. Row 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, and repeat that to the other end. So 1 increase, 2 and 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, and our last increase, 11 and 12, and then chain 1 and turn. In row 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, and repeat that to the other end for a total of 16. So 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, and our last increase, 15 and 16. All right, so now this is our right ear, so we want to have this on the top, and this is where we're going to be attaching our ear. So now we're going to grab our inside, and again, decide what side you want it on. So I'm going to have some strings to put in later, but I'm just going to leave them for now. And this time we're going to do opposite of what we did. We're going to do our 2 single crochets, our 1 in the middle, and our 2 single crochets across the side. So we're going to go in that first stitch. I know I find that knot is really tricky to deal with, but I'll worry about that later. And then into that same stitch, into the back side of the ear. Just take your time. I know sometimes it's a bit of a struggle to get in the right stitch. And then we're going to do the 2 single crochets. Oh my goodness, these ears are a mess for me today, and I don't know why. So 1, 2, and then our third one's going to go in that center loop hole on both sides. And then we're going to do 2 across on the other side. 1, 2, and then we're going to do 2 in this end. So 1 will be for the bottom, and the second will be to start our little picots going around. So now we're going to do our chain 2 into that same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, chain 2, nope, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch, into the next stitch, chain 2, into the same stitch. Now that I'm getting close to the end, I'm just going to tuck that tail in. I'm going to have to use my darning needle to put the other tails in. Okay, next stitch, chain 2, same stitch, next stitch, chain 2, same stitch, next stitch, chain 2, oopsie, same stitch, next stitch, chain 2, same stitch, next stitch, chain 2, same stitch. And then we should just be able to put a single crochet in there and tie off. And again, leave yourself a bit of a tail for sewing that on. So now we should have 2 ears with the strings at the top going the opposite ways. So if you're in the same situation as me and you ended up having your tails on the wrong side, all you're going to do is just thread them on and put them in between your 2 layers. So just like that. Cut that one off. And then I got this one. And then do the same to the other ear if you have. So I have this one left on this side. Alright, now we are going to add the ears. So what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to find our center starting loop on our ear, which is right here. And we're going to be putting our pin in this stitch right below it. So we're going to start by going right to the eye, the same row that we added our eyes in. So that is between rows 9 and 10, if you did something different there. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in that 6th hole, we are, where'd my ear go? We are going to attach our ear. So for the right ear, we want to make sure our string is on the top. Just kind of mark that stitch with your thumb. Go into that stitch and down, and we'll pin that in place. And then we are going to go up 4 rows. So this is the row we were in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we want our top stitch to be right there, nice and straight. So you're going to want to be kind of even with your top loop here. And then we're going to do one on the bottom 4 rows down. So our pin is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and our last stitch is going to go into that hole. And make sure that's nice and straight down. Just have a look. So this could go back one, I think. And then if you're happy with where it's sitting, I'm just going to put a couple of pins in just to hold it in place. I'm not in any specific chain or hole. I'm just pinning it down so it doesn't move. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. The left ear, your string will be on the top, and we'll count over from our eye placement row 6 holes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is where we're going to be pinning our center loop stitch. Just keep track of it. I probably should have used 2 pins so I remember, but you can always count back again and then double check. So now we are going to count up 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in that 4th row up, we're going to put our other pin and make sure you're even with the other ear. So you'll just kind of have a look like that. They look pretty good to me. Then we'll do the bottom one. So nice and straight down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll put that in that 4th row down from our center pin, and then just a couple to keep it in place. All the while making sure it's even and where you want it. Sorry, my hands might be in the way here. And if you're not sure, if you're in the right spot, you can always count down from our center loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Both my ears start between rows 5 and 6. So I'm just going to wrap my left ear string around the arm so it's out of my way. Last time I did the bunny, I ended up sewing right through it and had a heck of a mess. So we'll thread on our right ear string. And we're going to start from behind, right where that first pin is. And we're going to go, so I'm going to go behind the pin. So if you can see, my pin is right there in that stitch. So I'm going to go 1 stitch back, come around that stitch, and I'm going to come up. Oops, poked myself. I don't know why this is not going smoothly, but hopefully it gets better. So I'm going around a stitch in that row, and then I'm going to go in the stitch at the top of the ear. Then I'm going to go around the next row down. So I was just in this row, so I'm down in this next row. And that's just how we're going to continue on the whole ear. So into the next single crochet of the ear. Down a row and around that stitch. into the next single crochet of the ear, down a row and around that stitch. Right now the pins are just kind of keeping it in line. Into the next single crochet, down a row and around a stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row and around a stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row and around a stitch, into the next single crochet, and then we should be right at the bottom here, down a row and around a stitch, through the last single crochet, and then I'm just going to do one more. I think I might have skipped one. So around that row and then through the stitch of the ear. And then you're just going to tie it into one of your stitches if you can. And then go down in the hole right close to the ear and out the center of the back somewhere. I like to try and keep it even with whatever row I went into. So I went in here, so I'm right close. Alright, so let's get our other thread on our needle. And again, remember we got to go just behind our first pin, around that stitch and out. Into that first single crochet. And we're going to go down a row, around the stitch, into that next single crochet, down a row, around the stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row, around the stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row, around the stitch. Now I'm going in that center loop single crochet, down a row, around the stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row and around that stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row, around that stitch, into the next single crochet, and then we're going to be on our last one right here, down a row and around that stitch, and then into our last single crochet. Now I can't remember if I went around that twice on the other side, but I usually do, so let's go around that one twice. And then out the back, and we'll give that a tie. So again, I'm just going to find one of my sewing stitches. Using one of my stitches that I sewed the ear on with. Tie my knot. And then go down in a hole nice and close to the ear. And we're going to go out the same spot that we did with the other string. We'll give it one loose tie. Now you can do what I did with the arms and bring the ears and the head kind of in and smush it. I didn't think it needed it for this one because I like the kind of more oval shape of the head. But if you wanted to, you just pull that nice and tight and cinch them in a little bit. And then you'll give them a tie to tighten them up. And then out the back somewhere. And then we'll cut those off. I did leave a bit of a hole right there, so I'm just going to kind of smush my stitches around. Try and fix that. Alright, now I'm not going to brush this one out. I had enough brushing when I did this one. If you want to brush them out like this, give them little fuzzy ears and chest. I started with one of these. It's just a wire brush you can find in the paint section. This is the one I have. Beauty Tone multi-purpose brush set. There's all different styles, and that's just the one I found quick when I needed one. And then I also use a little pet brush. I went to this and it did make it a lot easier because I think these are a little bit stiffer bristles. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you will also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. And I'd also like to give a great big thank you to all of you that have been so kind to have hit the thanks button and send me such generous donations. You will now be listed at the end of all my next videos as my super thanks friends. And as always, take care, be safe, and happy crocheting!